There we go. Sorted. Right. So the two of us. Apologies from Steph. She's dealing with the veins and a couple other things, so she's not going to make it. And I've had apologies from Carly. She's not going to make it tonight either. Not heard from Adam, but I know he's busy with his son this weekend. I think Tammy's just having a Tammy moment, so I know she said something about having friends over this weekend or something, so
no problem.
But as far as I can see, at least everyone's voted. So there's 7 votes.
I think there's one that didn't vote, and I think that was Tammy.
Did Tammy no vote? I thought Tammy voted. I'll just double check. Because that is after 8 anyway, so.
Yeah.
57 for choice, 0 for prosperity, 43 for choice for prosperity, 7 votes in total. Stephen, Carly, Gordon, Adam, Chris Smith, Kieran, and Steph. So it's Tammy that hasn't. I know she was talking about voting for prosperity, so it wouldn't have
made a difference
to the outcome. I've got the. Send this message at 6:30 on Saturday. It's kind of hard to see. I'm voting for prosperity, though. Really sorry about that, Stephen.
It's fine.
It doesn't outcome the. What I was going to suggest then is that because I like the idea, I like the vision behind the prosperity word and stuff like that. So what I was going to suggest is, registering the party name just as choice for the simplicity, but then also registering the description as choice for prosperity, and then that gives the individual candidates the choice, ironically enough, to put down choice or choice for prosperity on their ballot papers.
Yeah, it'd be good.
So I don't think it's something that it's not going to be a problem. It's just we can leave that the individual choice on the ballot.
There was never going to be a problem. It was a democratic vote, and the democratic vote prevailed as choice, so it's not a problem at all.
Which I'm actually surprised, because at the very start, it seemed to be going the other way.
Yeah.
And then it swung. So, but so we can put that to bed now, and by having both, as a registered description, it means that if anyone's running as candidates, they can choose either the official party name or the official party description, whatever it is they want, whatever campaign they're running locally, they can decide that amongst themselves, and then that way it sort of
works itself out.
Yeah, it annuls us of the responsibility. It's not our fault. We gave you the choice. Run with it. So yeah. So I'll just put that into the Constitution. Right? Do you want a wee update in the Constitution now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry, don't mind me. I think I've got a spot on my eye. That's really annoying me.
And it's just, I've had them.
Oh, it's really fucking annoying me. Sorry, don't mind me. Yeah, let's go over this. The updates. I'll turn my camera off so I can view it properly. There we go.
Just that down there. I'll just hit the save button. Into edit text. Computer's awfully slow, especially when I'm on a Zoom meeting. It's actually been running constantly all weekend, and it just starts to go really slow until you restart the whole thing.
Mm.
What I'll do is I'll refresh the page, and then I'll ask Susie to draft a logo that we can use that isn't copyrighted or used elsewhere, and that will save us grief. I know one of the things that the SLP ran into trouble with was their original logo. Was it I'm sure it was SLP. And when they had fallen out with someone, that person then claimed copyright.
Fuck that. Yeah, we don't want that type of issue.
Whereas if the logo is produced by an independent contractor, where the party has the rights straight from off the bat, then neither one of us could have a fallout later on and then say, oh, well, that was my logo.
Not that any of us have that type of personality, but you never know.
I know. Right. Go. Part name is choice. The party description will be choice for prosperity. That might limit. We'll leave in just now, but I might need to reword it. The party description will include,
or may include.
I will include, just as out of respect to the founders. The party descriptions, because I think you get up to 10 descriptions. So the party descriptions will include choice for prosperity. And in that way, it has to be in there as one of the 10, and then, because you might go, down the line and say, right, okay, for this election in 2036, we've got a real chance of running for government. We want to go with this description on all the regional ballot papers or something, the leaders at the time. So, we want to be able to allow them through the constitution to add descriptions. Disturbed again. Okay. She'll wait for a bath.
Can I get some cream ice?
Some what?
Cream ice.
What's that?
Ice cream.
I'm on the meeting now, so just be quick.
Some cream ice.
Who's seeing that notification? Just Adam asking for sending his apologies. Sorry, folks, been battering outside, work in the garden, house ready for valuation. Has been
It's all good.
Just felt them in. Okay, so what I've done is I've tried to include the ability to sack. So what we've got is we were discussing last night. I'll do it with the treasurer here. Treasurer is appointed to the HQAM. Party treasurer is not required to be a member of the party. Party treasurer may be a person representing an independent accountant's office. Party treasurer may resign, be given 1 month notice in writing. New treasurer must be appointed no later than the date that incumbent treasurer resigns. Both the leaving treasurer and incoming treasurer will jointly inform the electoral commission within 14 days of the date of change. That will keep them within the current legislation. That's one of the things that the committee would have to keep their eyes on. So if it might be that the electoral commission request a law change to have it, 28 days or 7 days or 24 hours if it's that sort of bitchy about it.
Yeah.
And then that way the committee would be able to just come in and change that so that, so these sort of things. The registered treasurer must notify the electoral commission of all resignations and changes to party officers within 7 days of receipt of notification. I've included the 7 days simply because when a new party officer is appointed, that person, the person appointing the party officer will be given 7 days to notify the treasurer, and then the treasurer is given 7 days to notify the electoral commission, and that tallies up to the 14 days of the legal requirement to notify.
By the CC. Yep. The EC, sorry.
So that's 7 days to notify the treasurer, and then another 7 days.
7 days for the EC.
Notify the electoral commission. Yeah. Okay. Right. Here's where, if there's sort of disciplinary matters, right, the registered treasurer can be suspended, not sacked, right? The headquarters administrative manager is able to appoint, only the committee is able to sack.
Yeah.
But there's a process. The registered treasurer can be suspended with immediate notice by the headquarters administrative manager, basically the person that employed them in the first place. The headquarters administrative manager must inform the constitutional committee of the suspension of the treasurer immediately. So you're informing the treasurer, and then you're also informing the constitutional committee immediately. That might be simply an email to the chair of the constitutional committee.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think it would be wise to adjust that and advise that they must be informed with written confirmation?
Well, that I would suggest follow up with written confirmation, so it can be a phone call, because it's such an important thing. There's not enough time to wait for snail mail and things like that. It might be that the middle of the night you discover the treasurer has been, embezzling funds, or has been arrested because they've been accused of raping some prostitute somewhere. You know, so right. I know, right? We can joke about these things,
Did you
but
get to that?
because these things happen to real politicians. These
These things happen to the.
these things do happen in the political world
Oh,
repeatedly.
fuck me.
They never seem to learn their lessons. So, and the more money there is to manage, the more corruption is tempted.
Yeah.
So it might be that it's the middle of the night. You've had a phone call off the police sergeant desk or whatever. And they've said, "Look, your treasurer has been arrested for such and such." Right? You know, you then have to be able to, right? Okay, please let them know that we're suspending them, and they'll get a follow up with the committee. You know, and then straight away phone or text the chair of the committee to inform them that you've had to suspend the treasurer. But then
For raping a prostitute. How the fuck did that come? Why did that first come to your head, other than, you know, killing someone, or, you know, the generic instead of raping a prostitute?
Well, it's politicians they're more likely to be, you know, in the political world, you're more likely to be arrested for rape than you are for murder.
Yes, I guess that's
so
fucking true.
It's
I mean, have you seen them? Have you seen them down in Westminster? They all look like fucking lizards.
Yeah. Okay. So right, we'll amend it so that it's followed up
via written. Yeah, I think that's wise,
Followed up in
because
writing.
we need. It's all well and good doing it over the phone, but obviously not all phone calls are recorded. And the other person could then say, "Oh, well, I never got the reception of that. Oh, that wasn't confirmed to me on call." So to avoid that type of, let's just call it confusion, if you like, written confirmation needs to be followed up also.
Right. So the headquarters administrative manager must inform the Constitutional Committee of the suspension of the treasurer immediately, by any means of
communication,
then follow up in writing. That sound better?
Yeah, that sounds a bit better, and it secures it. It does secure it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right enough. It's just the more accurate, the more specific. You've heard of that SMART analogy, haven't you? Acronym. Yeah. Specific, measurable, accurate, realistic, and timely.
Yeah. Exactly.
If every single sentence put in the Constitution has to meet those 5 requirements.
Also cares as well, which is collaboration, accountability, respect, ethical, and successful.
Yeah. So it's important that, because we wouldn't, you know, you're right enough that, you know, the chair of the Constitutional Committee could be in on some sort of collusion to embezzle funds or something like that. You've sent a wee phone. You've made a wee phone call to the chair of the Constitutional Committee, who then tries to quickly bury it up or delay stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So because this is going to be investigated and it's all going to come out who was helping them, you know. So so then followed up in writing. The Constitutional Committee will seek reasons for the suspension of the treasurer. So there's no automatic
exception. Acceptance. Sorry, yeah.
The Constitutional Committee must then convene a meeting within 7 days to hear evidence for the suspension and also to hear evidence in defence of the treasurer.
Yep. Speaks for itself.
Yeah. Then goes on, the Constitutional Committee will then vote on whether to end the suspension of the treasurer, i.e. as basically letting them get back on with the job, or whether to terminate the treasurer by giving 1 month's notice in writing with the reason for the decision. Now, it's 1 month notice in writing that they are terminating. It's not because they're going to let the treasurer carry on the job for the last month. It's simply that they can remain suspended for that month notice.
Whilst we seek a replacement.
Because
What I would also say in response to that, or to add on to that, is once that decision has been made, an official communication should be communicated to the rest of the membership with the reasons.
it might not always be appropriate. What I have put in though, the notice, the termination notice is put in writing with the reasons for the decision to the treasurer. It is then, if the treasurer wants to be a bitch about it, they're welcome to publish the letter they were given, or have the letter published. But again, as part of, as will happen in the transparency section, all meetings are recorded anyway. There will be a section about data protection, so if taking evidence from someone in a protected category, such as a child or that, that person can have their details or their information eliminated from the recording, or their voice altered or whatever. But I've lost my place anyway. But what you'll find is that all these meetings will at some point in the future be published in full, that the unedited.
Right, that's fine then. That's fine. So long as there's a collaboration between the leadership and the membership, that is the main thing. I think that was the real reason as to why many people are feeling alienated by the Scottish Libertarian leadership, is because even I didn't know, and I was the third highest donor at the time, what was going on with yourself, and what was going on with that whole situation. Until obviously I found out for myself. So I think there needs to be much better collaboration and communication between the membership and the leadership team.
I mean, the transparency default is that all meetings will be recorded and all meetings will be published. But because of the sensitive nature of timing things, for example, might be that there's a leadership meeting for the upcoming election.
Yeah.
How they intend to manage their campaign, or what strategies, or where they're going to be aiming for, etc., etc. So they don't want that going out in the first instance for the opposition to be able to spy and see, all right, okay, that's what they're going to be doing. But it might be that 6 months after or 3 months after the election, then meetings of that nature are published.
Yeah, that makes sense. So on the website, what we could have is we could have specific subsections for specific meetings. So for example, we could have a section for disciplinaries, we could have a section for election meetings, we could have a section for these meetings where we're actually setting the actual party up. We have different sections for the different videos to then be viewed in different. It's almost like creating a folder, if you like, within your F drive.
Yeah, exactly. And it could just simply be a list of, such and such meeting, such and such meeting.
I just think it'll look a wee bit more tidier when we have actual headings for different folders, and then within the different within the different sections, sorry, not folders, on the website, you can actually see the videos with relating to that specific event, which is maybe general election build up or focus for 2026, and then we can have all of the meetings there, or founders meetings for what we're doing right now, and then all the meetings on the build up to actually creating the party. Just different sections with all of the necessary videos included in there, so that nothing gets lost, everything's in chronological order, and everything is quite accessible and very easy to find.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. It'd be really, really nice to actually see some of that. Now, I know that, some of the members, when we were talking about transparency at the last AGM, some of the members were concerned about privacy and data issues and stuff like that, and they wanted to be able to feel as though they could speak freely without it then being edited and used against them in a future campaign and stuff like that.
Sure.
Which I totally get, but at the same time, I'm of the opinion, and I've argued this in the past, it's not just a recent thing, I've argued this repeatedly in the past, where someone isn't able to, if someone has an opinion, they should be able to have that opinion in public and be able to defend that opinion. So if they're going into a meeting and they want to express an opinion, then they should be they should be willing to defend that opinion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? There's no point going to a meeting and lying about stuff because you think it's all private and then saying something else publicly. If you've got an opinion, it's your opinion to have, but it's also your opinion to defend.
Yeah. I think also during or before those meetings start, like officially start recording, I think what could be quite good is to protect the party is a disclaimer before the recording, and then a disclaimer after we've started recording. So the disclaimer before the recording could be, right, we are going to start recording. Has anyone got any objections? And then after it's recorded, you could then go, no objections, as per the pre-record. However, no need to make you aware that this is now recording, etc. It's
Sorry,
just...
I'll need to take this call a minute.
Yeah, off you go, mate. That's fine.
Where's my Sorry about that.
Right. No problem.
That was my mother phoning, so
Oh, what have you done now?
just sorting out childcare and kids, etc., etc.
Oh, so for once it wasn't you in trouble. Fair enough, man.
See. Right. Where were we? Oh yeah, I was screen sharing. There we go. So where were we? We were talking about
Recordings.
and having the disclaimers and stuff. Yeah, all that will be included. And we can talk about the specific wording or content of the disclaimers nearer that time. Okay. So the Constitutional Committee will seek reasons for the suspension, will then convene a meeting within 7 days, hear evidence from both sides, and then they can vote on whether to end the suspension of the Treasurer or terminate. It's either. They don't have to clear. I've left that. They can clear the Treasurer of the accusations and end the suspension. Thereby, the HQAM doesn't
Yeah.
have the power to sack by default. They've got to go through the committee. Because effectively the committee is the boss of the HQAM.
Yeah.
So though the committee doesn't get to pick who the treasurer is, if they like the treasurer, then they can protect the treasurer from being sacked. And kind of vice versa, you know, treasurer and all the rest don't really get to pick who the committee are and stuff like that, which is quite good in a way, you know. It's like the committee can't be in a leadership, you know, in a leadership role or
Have a conflict of interest, basically.
yeah, exactly. And also they can't be within the administrative leadership or anything like that, you know. It might be that, you know, a committee member may just simply apply for a job within, but they're not part of the leadership or something like that.
So the social media manager or something like that, yeah.
Aye, well, because that would be a manager, that would be a leadership position, a managerial position. They wouldn't be able to apply for that job without resigning from the committee.
Or a social media manager position.
Aye, it's a leadership role. It doesn't matter what the role is, but if it's got a leadership level to it, you know, whereas they might work, they might be employed by the social media manager.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So they could still do the job, they just wouldn't be allowed to be the manager of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay, the Constitutional Committee may decide basically to reconvene the initial meeting at a later date, you know, delay it for a month if requested to do so by the Treasurer, not by the HQAM. The HQAM must have evidence or something, you know, good reason to suspend this. This is where you can't just suspend and then make up the evidence afterwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to have good reason for suspending someone, especially a treasurer. And you should be able to present that easily within the 7 days to the committee. The treasurer, however, may just be hearing of these allegations for the first time, and may need more, for many various reasons, they may need more than the 7 days to present a defence to the committee. So the committee can hear the request of the treasurer to delay, you know, the hearing of the evidence for up to 1 extra month. I'd thought about, extending that, but I think that a month is enough time for the vast majority of simple things.
I think we also need to be careful about the timing of that, because whilst this is all going on, who's actually doing the treasurer work for the party?
Well, hopefully most things will be reasonably automated. We are only talking about 1 month and 7 days.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. If we were to extend it any further, then it may jeopardise the
Yeah.
treasurer position and the responsibilities of the treasurer. So 1 month would probably be sufficient.
Aye, and a good example of this may well be that going back to the allegation of raping a prostitute. I know how funny you find that. I should rephrase that. I am no way accusing you of finding the rape.
No, I don't find prostitutes being raped funny. I just find it funny that was the first thought to your head to come up with an example of breaching someone's rights.
It's an extreme one. It catches the attention. But basically, these things, it can be easily demonstrated to the committee that someone has been arrested for something quite serious. The treasurer's been arrested or charged for something quite serious. It's the committee would be able to terminate the contract with the treasurer.
Yeah.
Finding the treasurer guilty, which is an important distinction. It may well be that, right, okay, this is an ongoing serious criminal investigation. We cannot have you continuing in the role until the outcome of the court the outcome of criminal allegation has been heard. So in the meantime, we are terminating your contract as a treasurer. Here's your 1 month's notice. The treasurer position will be replaced, you'll be replaced by someone else, and you can reapply for the post, if you're cleared in the court, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's not too, right, okay, maybe the example specifically of raping a prostitute might be a bit, beyond realistic, but it's not entirely unrealistic that some sort of serious allegation can be made and that there's an ongoing criminal investigation and then court delays and everything else.
Yeah.
So it would be unfair to the party to have to wait all that out. So the termination can be made without, so that they can give the reasons that simply, look, we cannot have you as treasurer whilst this investigation goes on, so they're not finding the treasurer guilty without trial or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, we're taking these steps to protect the party. Then, and then if the treasurer or the former treasurer by that point is ultimately cleared at court, at criminal court, then they are welcome to reapply when the position comes up again.
Yeah.
So it allows for the termination without having to prove guilt, because these things can be an absolute minefield.
For sure.
And I know we have seen it, I've seen it in the party where serious, in the past, serious allegations have been made, and people charged, but also cleared later on, but it does take years.
Yeah.
And especially when they were delaying everything with the COVID stuff. So it's important that, if someone's decent enough, they will go to whoever their you know, line manager, for want of a better description, is, and say, look, this has happened. I am resigning until the outcome of it, and then I'll reapply when the position comes back up. If the person is decent enough, they will do that, and that has happened in the past and normally happens. That's what a lot of people do, you know, a lot of normal people do. Or you've got the Tam and Liam scenario where they just like, nah, fuck it, you know, we've not been charged yet, and we're just gonna wait and see. We're not resigning, you know, and there's no process, there was no procedure or process to actually sack them or remove them or suspend them or anything like that. So, you know, they could have been charged. None of us know whether they were or they weren't. All me and Steph know is the police were involved and the Electoral Commission were involved. But we don't get told the outcome of it.
Yeah.
So for all we know, Tam and Liam could have actually been charged and they're just going to fight it all
Deny it.
2 years down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or they might genuinely never have heard anything because there was no follow up on the allegations or the charges. So one or the other, both or neither could be true, but none of us know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there needs to be proper collaboration and transparency regarding that sort of situation. So totally agree.
If it is, you know, if there is some sort of serious criminal allegation that that could affect the party specifically, then the committee has to have the right to remove the person from the position, and then allow that process to happen, and for the position to be filled with someone else. I've also put, right, okay, the decision whether to reconvene later or not must be given to both the treasurer and the headquarters administrative manager in writing within 7 days. So again, the committee's got the right to delay of up to 1 month, but they have to give the decision to both parties in writing within those 7 days.
That's fine.
The treasurer has the right to attend all of these meetings. Absolutely. You know, none of this shady dealings behind closed doors or anything like that. If there's an accusation and it's being discussed, the person has to be there to, you know, has to have the right. They might just decide that you were to phone you can. From your phone, if you've got it.
I don't have my phone. It's in
Okay.
her handbag.
Right, okay. Let her know.
Bye-bye.
Excuse me. Right. This meeting's getting recorded.
Yeah, I'm going
Oh, children. And then this is unique to the treasurer. It's not exactly the same as other positions. In the circumstance that the treasurer is an employee of the party's administrative and asset management services limited company, as a mouthful, then the constitutional committee must comply with current employment legislation.
Yeah.
That again means that they can't just sack someone carte blanche without having a legitimate reason. That protects the party and the company legally from, you know, so if the person is just getting railroaded out the door, you know, be it a constructive dismissal or anything else like that, then basically the employment legislation if they're an employee, then the employment legislation takes precedent over the constitution.
Yeah.
Similar, because I mean, the government's bigger than us. They'll just slap us hard. With other positions, it's unique to the treasurer's position because we have it up here. That the treasurer may be a person representing an independent accountant's office, or a contractor or something, So they may not actually be an employee or a member of the party, but in the situation where they are an employee, the legislation takes precedent. We've got elsewhere, like, as the nomination officer is an employee of the party's administrative asset management services limited company, then the Constitutional Committee must comply with current employment legislation. So it's slightly different.
Yeah.
That line there is just unique to the treasurer's position. It's then just simply copied. I can take the amendment about the decision being in writing, or the notice being in writing, or followed up in writing. I can copy that in, but it's effectively just not quite copied and pasted, but almost word for word.
It's fine.
With a couple of things unique. So the nominating officer will be appointed basically by the director. The registered nominating officer must be a party member. So that is one of the requirements. You have to actually be a member of the party. And the nominating officer will also become an employee of the limited company. The nominating officer will authorise all local leaders to be responsible for signing proposed candidate certificates of authorisation. That way we don't have a nominating officer with a grudge, saying, I just hate your guts, you're not getting to stand. They are required to authorise the local leaders. And it's partly a logistics as well. If you're getting to a stage where a council election, you've got 808 or 810 candidates all trying to run for election,
How the fuck are you going to expect that from one nominating officer?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to fill out all those forms and everything. It's going to be unrealistic. So
Pandemonium.
And then, of course, if the local leaders are responsible for, it's basically, there's a candidate selection process that has to be followed first. Then, after that selection process has been followed, it's then up to the local leaders to follow the next step of the process, where, right, okay, you didn't get elected to your local, as your local candidate, but we have a vacancy here. Do you want to do that one? Yes, brilliant. Okay, there's your paperwork signed, off you pop, Yeah. So automatically those who were interested in being active candidates are the ones who are signed off first. And then again, if there is still vacancies to fill, still candidate ballots, basically positions to fill, then again the local leader, not the regional or the national one, the local leader is then responsible and saying, right, okay, I need to find candidates to fill this spot.
Yeah.
So they'll then ask the committee members, they'll then ask members of the administrative team and stuff like that. So the nominating officer could be, and the treasurer could be, or the committee members could be candidates, but by default they cannot apply to be candidates in the first place. they can only be candidates if a local leader relevant to that election. It might be the regional leaders if it's the Holyrood election, but it'll be the local leaders if it's council, you know. They'll be the ones that can authorise or ask someone to be a paper candidate or something like that, but not the other way about. You know, in practice, you know, say for example, I was nominating officer. I don't intend on being, but say for example, I was. I could then say, look, right, Kieran, you're my local leader. I heard, you know, that you might not get all your positions filled. I'm just saying I'm willing to run so that you know you can come and ask me if you've got a spot left. But I can't then put myself formally forward as a candidate in the first place to say I want to run in this ward. No.
So you can't come to me and say, look, I want to run for this.
Yeah, exactly. But you would have the right to ask only after the selection process, the formal selection process.
Right. After it's done. Right. Okay. That's fine.
You get the active candidates lined up. If there's you just get them lined up for the local areas. If there's a conflict, if there's two people running in the same area, then you run a vote with that local membership to decide who should run or not. Because ultimately, elections are just popularity contests. If you can't win an election with your own members of your own party, what chance have you got with the general electorate?
Exactly.
So win that in the first instance, and if you happen to lose that, but there's a vacancy comes up, the local leader will then be able to say, right, okay, those who applied to be a candidate but didn't get elected through the election process, we have these vacancies, and it's then just entirely up to a local leader to make their own selection from those who did not win their own election. Become candidates. And after that, that's a formal process. And after that, it's then the informal process where they go to ineligible members to run as paper candidates. In theory, if they're a member of the party, there's nothing to stop them running as an active candidate. They don't have to be a member of the party to run as a paper candidate. They just have to sign a disclaimer saying, right, okay, I'm willing to lend my name and comply with such and such. But they don't have to be a member. Because at the end of the day, we're just pretty bums on seats.
That's fine.
And it might be that someone gets a taste of the election campaign and go, you know what, I want to run as a candidate again. I'm just going to resign this position and then apply to be a candidate next time round. You know what I mean? So people then are free, they've got the choice, they've got the freedom to, you know, prosper in whatever career angle they want to aim for. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
So again, that's just the sacking process. Party chairperson. That's the person responsible for organising all official party meetings. The party chairperson may delegate those responsibilities where necessary. So it might be that there's a meeting coming up, they can't make it. So they'll delegate it to someone in the administrative team that, but these things will be more detailed. This is just the constitution. These things will be more detailed in the policy and the kind of procedure manual.
Yeah.
To go into nitty gritty stuff. the nitty gritty stuff doesn't need detailed out in a constitution. It's just giving the chairperson the right to delegate the responsibilities where necessary. So it might be that, you know, the party's absolutely massive. There's 50 meetings every week. One person isn't going to be able to handle all that. So
No.
they will delegate it out. Chairperson is responsible for recording all official meetings and publishing those meetings when required. Again, the details of that will be between further down the constitution and in the procedure manual. And the party chairperson may delegate recording and publishing responsibilities to a secretary. You know,
At the moment, you're the unofficial chairperson at the moment whilst we're setting all of this up, yeah?
well, I haven't assumed that role, but yeah, I've pretty much taken on that sort of role because it's important that these things are recorded and stuff like that, and then I can show other people how to do it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's fine.
You know,
I haven't got an issue with that, I'm just saying.
aye. It's kind of, you know, we don't technically need to declare anyone a chairperson as long as the stuff's getting done.
Yeah,
because the
such
party-
as, for
the party
example, if
technically doesn't exist at the moment, so
yeah, exactly. So such as, for example, if the local leader was wanting to have a local meeting in regards to the local elections, that local leader would then assume the role of chairperson.
no, actually.
No.
I think they would ask the administrative team for that to be set up for them.
Oh, okay, that makes it even easier then.
So
That's fine.
the local leader can say, right, okay, elections are coming up. I want to start having weekly meetings with my team.
Yeah, no, that makes it so much easier because the facility's in place and the local leader doesn't even need to worry about that. That's quite good.
They don't need to worry about how to organise it or how to record things or how to publish it or anything like that. They just need to show up. They have
That's
to request it. And the party admin team will say, well, yes or no, yes, we can accommodate that date and time for everyone. Ideally, we should be able to say that by default, but during an election period, there maybe have to be some sort of come and go, and there maybe have to be deadlines, because that same person who's chairing and recording, or it might be that there's two people, one chairs, one records.
Yeah.
You know, they
I think
might have
what I think should happen then, if we're going to go down that way, I think that's a brilliant idea. Is I think we should have further down the line, obviously not the now, because obviously we're still getting things ready, but having an official intranet would be really good, like an intranet page for members only, so that they have the facility to raise like tickets to the administrative team to get these tasks done for them, so that they don't need to send emails or anything like that. It's just like a ticket system that they can put tickets in place for them to obviously then set the relevant facilities up for them within the party.
That's easy enough to do with the
Yeah.
website.
So like just create a members only intranet, and then they can log in. They can even get news internally within the party as well. We could even create our own internal social media within the party as well on that intranet page. Be really good.
Aye, well, it's well, you know, the Monday platform
Yeah,
I've used previously, that has all that built in it.
yeah. Well, there you go. We could use that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'd be skeptical for having it for every just single ordinary member. Having access to raise a ticket and stuff like that is simply just putting a link to a form on the website within the membership section of the website.
Yeah.
It's not completely foolproof. You know, you maybe get some sort of spammer just deciding to knock you for six, but at the same time, it then becomes kind of obvious to a certain degree that, you know, if the party member has to put in their registered email address and their membership number to raise a ticket, then if it's missing anything that, it just gets a polite email back. Sorry, you're missing some information here. You know, but someone will be in touch, and it can be manually entered, you know, via a phone call or something.
Yes, fine.
Corrected properly. If someone's forgotten their membership number, you know, it's easy enough to
Send an email out to them.
yeah, exactly. As long as it's coming from the email that they're registered with.
Yeah. Aye, to protect that protection.
And it's important to have their unique membership number so that they can vote. So that they'll be able to watch AGMs through the website without having to come in person. You know, they'll be able to vote at these leadership elections and other things. You know, when they're electing the local constitutional committee member, then, you know, they'll be able to do that through the website. Just by putting in their email and their membership number and then selecting what way they want to vote. So it's easy enough to organise all this. Right.
Indeed.
I use that term loosely. I know how to do it. It's just it's a shit ton of work. But once it's set up, it's set up, you know. And you know, the website should be good enough for, as long as it's maintained on a daily basis, should be good enough for, you know, 5 years at least. Technology changes, so it might be that, you know, 5 or 10 years down the line, the methods are all out of date, or it might be that we've just got the extra funding and we can get our own unique website instead of using third-party software.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that's a dream. We get, you know, $250,000 spare, and we can pay a professional developer to actually come up with something, you know, that does everything for us, and is much more secure than anything I could do. You know.
We'll get there, mate. We'll get there.
We will. We will.
Got to crawl before we can walk, before we can run, before we can jump.
It's no secret that my skills are limited, but just now, you know, I can always improve my skills and always will. But at the same time, you know, I'm going to be busy enough. If I afford to pay some professional to do it, then fine. Right, so yeah, that was a nominating officer. It was straightforward after that. You know, the 1 month notice to resign, appoint your nominating officer no later than the date of the incumbent officer resigning. Manager must notify the treasurer, who in turn must notify, it's in their section of the bit that they have to, there it is. The registered treasurer must notify the Electoral Commission of all resignations and changes to party officers within 7 days of receipt of notification. So there's 7 days there, and 7 days, or whatever it is, 7 days somewhere, to the treasurer, and 7 days from the treasurer to the Electoral Commission. Same with chairperson. It was the chairperson we got into. Chairperson may delegate to a secretary. The chairperson will be an employee of the party's limited company. Simply because I don't want us going down the route of relying solely on volunteers. What we can do is run it the opposite way. The person has the right to be paid appropriately for the work that they do, but they can volunteer not to receive payment for it. Rather than the other way about, the SLP had volunteers that refused to employ anyone, to pay anyone, simply because they thought it was going to be too much hassle. But when you get to that stage, you've heard Tam repeatedly say, "Oh, we're relying on volunteers and they've got other stuff in their lives going on." If the person is an employee and they're getting paid for the job,
Mm.
And then turns out they're not doing the job, they get put out the door, and someone else is brought in, and it's, I think, the only employee required to be a member was the nominating officer, but chairperson doesn't have to be a member of the party, so you can employ the best people for the job with the money that you have, to make sure the work is getting done and that the party runs as smoothly as possible.
Mm.
Because if you are restricting your employment of people only to people who've signed up as a member and donating money, then you're going to be restricting your talent pool that you can choose from. And obviously, as part of the employment contract, not part of the constitution, but part of the employment contract will be, obviously all your data protection terms and everything else, but the non-disclosures agreements and stuff like that, because you'll be dealing with sensitive internal party
Information.
Yeah. You might, as chairperson, you're sitting in national UK national leaders meeting about the upcoming an upcoming election campaign for Westminster, and in a strong position to cover the entire UK and the candidates and this, that, and the next thing, and the sensitive campaign strategies being discussed. You don't want that chairperson then, dishing that out to the SNP or to the Tories or something like that, saying, "I want, put extra resources into this constituency because this party is going to be concentrating on that one," So those sort of things can be covered in the employment contract, and would be grounds for dismissal, or initial suspension, and then go through the suspension and dismissal process with the Constitutional Committee. This is just for senior roles. You wouldn't want the Constitutional Committee dealing with some snot-nosed teenager just out of school who's only there for envelopes, right? You don't want that sort of hassle. You want the manager of that person to be able to say, "Look, sorry, it's not working out. Don't come back."
Yeah.
But they're not involved in sensitive information. Then we're on to the headquarters administrative manager. We'll probably come up with a better job title. Basically, the director of the company that's owned by the party will be appointed by the Constitutional Committee. So this is where there's a lot of power. There's a huge amount of power in this position, and this is the bit I'm struggling with. There's a huge amount of, that headquarters administrative manager, whatever it is, director of the company, whatever. There's a huge responsibility and a huge amount of power held with that person. Ayla, will you switch on the light for me, please? Just want to see here. Thank you. And they are.
Get him a pair of specs when he's at it.
She's away. that person is appointed by the Constitutional Committee, but is also sacked by the Constitutional Committee. So there's no, what do you call it? There's limited protections for that person, but they also hold a fucking huge amount of power within the party. Right, that person, whoever that person is instrumental in everything going right. Because if they're not doing their job right, then the nominating officers and chairpersons and everyone else are probably not doing their job right, but not getting picked up on.
Yeah.
And it will then fall to the committee to sack this person because they can't sack anyone else for not doing their jobs. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't want the Constitutional Committee just sacking the manager for just having some sort of personal grievance. There would have to be some sort of process. So we'll have to play that one out. The manager must comply with the laws of company directors. The person will be recorded as a director of the party's limited company. They must comply with the laws of company directors. Again, this is just getting into a huge amount of red tape and legislation here. It is an incredibly difficult job, being a limited company director. They're responsible for the overall operations of basically all the party's administrative services and asset management and stuff like that. So it might be that they're in charge of future investments that the party makes in order to become profitable without relying on donations and tax breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a huge responsibility there. They can employ any staff or contractors as required. Now, obviously, they've got to, again, they've got to work to budgets and stuff like that. They've got to set the budgets and work to them. Because if they don't do that, things quickly spiral out of control and the committee ends up getting involved and saying, we need to replace you. And getting a director is a skilled director is very, very difficult without offering hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, so want to make sure that we've got somebody qualified enough to do a good enough job that's not going to take much or any money. The administrative manager can authorise others to employ staff or contractors as required. So it might be that the director then appoints someone to oversee they might appoint someone who oversees a leaflet distribution franchise, for example. Okay,
Yeah.
you're going to be employed, but we need you to run this franchise. You'll be responsible for employing staff and contractors to run that franchise, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or it could even be stuff, it doesn't even have to be relevant to the party. It could even just be like, a Domino's or Pizza Hut franchise or something like that. You know what I mean? Or buy into McDonald's or shit like that. It could just simply be, going down the property partner route or buying shares direct in other companies. All these sort of things. You have to make sure that the committee understands how much power and responsibility this person has.
Yeah, they have to be qualified.
And not disqualified from being a director, etc. Not financially insolvent or bankrupt or anything else like that. It's huge responsibilities. So I'm working on that. I think that's the last person in the key constitutional, because by the time you get to this point, this is just all covered by employing other staff and managers and contractors as required,
Yeah.
without having to be a constitutional issue. And it just needs kind of filled out and tidied up so that there's the disciplinary processes included. Party structure, just be a description of how the structure's made up, how the committee's made up. The leadership, I think we spoke about that previously. Local leaders who, the local members will elect local leaders. From those local leaders, regional members will be able to vote in a regional leader from those local leaders. The regional leaders can be nominated to be national leader and voted in by the national membership, and then so on to the UK level, voted in by the UK membership. If you fail to maintain your local leader position, then you cannot be leader elsewhere and stuff like that. Constitutional committee, I'm thinking more. I'm thinking more at a regional level. So, for example, if it was only Scotland, just because we're both here in Scotland, we can understand it a bit easier. In Scotland, we have 8 regions, so it could be that we can nominate and elect up to 2 people from each region, but it'll be the regional members that elect the committee members. And because they're limited by region as to how many people can be in it, and that for extra committee members that have to be from elsewhere in a different region, then it means that there's less likely to be little cliques that are able to fully control an entire committee, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have 4 people in Edinburgh and only 1 person in Kilmarnock, and they're outvoting the Kilmarnock person all the time, simply because they're in a wee clique in Edinburgh.
Like 1 per region.
Yeah, 1 or maximum 2 per region. Because it's difficult to get a committee. Constitutional committee is not a glamorous or attractive role, and it's a volunteer role that they cannot be paid. I don't think they can be paid by law. I need to double check that. So it's not a glamorous role, and we need to make sure each region is getting.
I think it would be wise if you could put that in there then as a 2.2.1 is maximum 2 per region.
I'll add all that, and I'm up at 4 in the morning, so I need to.
That's fine.
Organised. So I'll continue this on tomorrow after my work.
Okay, that's fine. So probably have another meeting tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, you just give me a shout when you're ready. I'll give you a shout when I'm sitting down and.
I'm working until 8 o'clock tomorrow, so the time I get in, it'll be about 9:30.
Just give me a wee message when you're ready, and we can reconvene.
That's fine.
No worries. Right, recording stopped. I shall see you tomorrow.
Cool.